Hey, this is Andy with West Valley 411, and I am ecstatic tonight because I finally fixed my wife's air conditioning in a 2005 Honda Odyssey. So stay with me here. I'm going to share some tips, some tricks, my story, how I got to finally get the unit to work. I'll tell you right off the top, it wasn't a fuse, it wasn't a relay switch, it wasn't the clutch. I didn't have a leak in any of the lines except the port. So I want to go through and describe how I got to the point of fixing it after I watched all the YouTube videos and went on all the forums, because my problem was really unique. So let me say a little bit about what happened. So once the air conditioning went out, I went through all the diagnostic steps to, again, I changed out the relay switches. That wasn't it. My clutch was working. I finally said, well, let me take a look and see, maybe I can just do an easy fix, and maybe it's just the Freon. So I went to O'Reilly's initially. I was on a bike ride and I said, hey, I got a problem with my air conditioner. He goes, hey, no problem. Come in, we got gauges that you can use them. You can hook them up and see what your pressure is, and maybe you just need some Freon. So I went back a couple days later. The guy wasn't there. Some other dude said, no, it's company policy. We can't let you use our test gauges. So I'm like, oh, great. I left. About a week later, I went over to AutoZone, just planning on kind of getting some Freon, and the guy says, hey, why don't you just try one of these gauges? One of the customer brought this back in after filling his car up, and as you can see, there's kind of the low filled yellow and danger zone. You got to know how much Freon to put in so you don't fill it up too high. And that's one mistake people make, is they overfill. They think more is better. So anyway, I checked and it was actually low. So I bought a $30 container of Freon. In California, you know, they come with a $10 deposit. So you got to pay a little more, and then when it's empty, you bring it back. And it worked. But of course it only worked for a couple of weeks because I had a leak and I didn't know where the leak was from. So I did more research and I finally figured out, well, maybe I have a leak in one of the service ports, and there's a link to this video in the description. There's a couple of other videos I posted on how to detect a leak and the difference between JRA and Schrader valves. So then I decided, well, let me go to the dealer. I'm not really sure what size I need, and he gave me a JRA valve. And so when I got it home, and I did purchase the Master Cool core remover. This is the 58531. It costs $70, and it gives you the here's the valve body with the two high and low service port connectors. And let me show you the difference between the one on the left here. That is the JRA valve. It's bigger and more diameter, and the tip there will clip right into the JRA. But the Schrader valve one, that is smaller, and see how close I can get for you to see that, will not clip into the JRA valve. So you got to be really careful. You got to know what valve, what Schrader valve size you need to determine what tool you have. And the dealer was no help because he gave me the wrong one. So when I returned the couple of JRA valves I got, he said, oh, well, the next guy said, oh, well, it depends what year you've got. Some have one size on the high side and another side on the low side, and different years have different sizes. So I'm like, well, that's not very helpful. So I ended up buying the Master Cool set. It's got really nice instructions on both sides. Kind of tells you how to do everything. There's other videos that you can watch that do a really nice job on how to change it out. So here I go. I started, and the low side was really easy. I changed it out in about 5 minutes and I felt really good. Then I get to the high side, and here was my ultimate problem, and no one could help me with it. The threads on the Schrader valve detached from the body. It was broken inside, which could be one of the problems and why it was leaking. But if you take a look at that, I set the tool to turn it when I turned it, I couldn't pull it out because the body of the Schrader valve, where that rubberized plastic seal was stuck, and I couldn't get it out. And so I used my needle nose pliers. You know, I jiggled it, I wiggled it, I did everything except break it, and it just was not coming out. It was stuck. So I went back to the Honda dealer. I talked to one of the service techs. I happened to catch the shop foreman coming out of the shop between customers, and I said, hey, I got a quick question. I said, I got a Schrader valve in my air conditioner. It won't come out. He goes, I've never heard of that before. I said, what if I bring it in to get it fixed? He goes, I don't know. I might have to change the whole line. So what I ended up doing is I put a drop of oil in the port. I heated it up with a little bit of propane. You know, I like to use this on 4th of July. But, you know, you turn it on. You heat it up. And, you know, I ended up putting the needle nose pliers in. I jiggled and wiggled, and on my final pull, the thing came out, and you could hear the tremendous pressure on that valve leaking out. But fortunately, this is what I did, because I predicted that would happen. You can see this valve body. It's hard to do this with one hand, but I turned the ball valve. See if I can hold it with my foot. I turned the ball valve like this so that it was closed. I know it's shiny in there, but the ball valve was closed. And I had the high side attachment here attached, and so I hurriedly put that on and sealed it so that I didn't get any oxygen in. I did a small amount of 134A escape, but I managed to seal it up, and then I put a can of a small 12-ounce can of 134A in, and voila, it's fixed. 2 new Schrader valves. Didn't need the JRA. I returned those, and I'm pretty much good to go. So the moral of the story is do your research. I hope this helped. I know on a lot of forums there's guys that say you know, hey, I've got this size or that size, but you might want to you know, lift the caps off of your ports and stick your eye over the top. Please use protective gear. I always wore gloves, and I used you know, glasses, so I didn't get any in my eyes when the port was open. So, you know, safety first. But you got to know what size valve. I couldn't figure it out online. Nobody at all said in any of their posts, you know, what size they needed. Everyone just said Schrader, but the dealer said JRA, and some of the Honda Odysseys do need JRA, and other cars need other types of valves. So once you know what you got, if you do run across this problem, that I tell you, man, it took me about a week. I was really down. I'm like, how am I going to get that thing out? And I was concerned about the environment. You know, I'm like, you know, I don't want to evacuate the high side and just let it out in the environment. So I'm glad I was prepared. But go figure. You know, every project I have, there's always something that comes up that's you know, not on the books. So anyway, thanks for staying with my story. I hope that helps. Get the right tools. Ask a lot of questions. Please post any questions. I'll be happy to answer. Sorry I'm not out at the car right now. It's kind of late at night, and I got stuff out on my garage floor. So anyway, hope you have success fixing your air conditioner, no matter which of the other decision points you've got. Hope it works. Do it yourself, and have a lot of fun. All right, thanks for watching.